For many, many years of my career before I got on the mental health journey, I worked for a lot of doctors way back when, many lifetimes ago. So I worked for primary care physicians and I worked for outpatient care as part of a hospital. And I cannot agree with this comment enough. The doctors there were very scary. Again, they have a very godlike complex, feeling holier than thou. You can't talk to them. I've even, and I could kind of say this now, but it troubled me for a long time. I even had a doctor that I worked for. He cursed at me and threw a chart at me. When I asked him a question, of course, he was a white guy, very, he was just one of those doctors that, like, oh, everybody sort of worked around him as very timid and shy, and that's just how he is, and that would sort of be that commentary. But yeah, one day he yelled at me and threw a chart at me, and I remember sharing it with the office manager, and who was also an older white guy. And he says, Natalie, you need to really grow a thicker skin. And I'm like, how have we become so normalized that it's okay for this guy to actually throw things at another person within a medical practice? And of course, he's the head of the practice. He's so loved and cherished by many. And yeah, yeah, yeah. You guys know the song and dance, the whole dog and pony show. But again, it was just more or less like any sort of infractions that doctor or any doctor within practices really committed. There was no repercussions for behaviors. I'm viewed as being more in the wrong when someone does something completely and totally inappropriate. Of course, it didn't stop there, and I did try to take it further, but once again, as you know, whistleblowers don't fare well in those types of things, even though they say that there's a no retaliation policy and all that jazz. I found that in my experience, it doesn't really apply, especially when you're a woman, you're an African American woman, but also too, I think for a lot of places where I've worked, and I've worked even in the ERs and stuff like that too, but I think in a lot of places where I've worked, especially when it comes to medical care, a lot of healthcare facilities will retain doctors by any means necessary. Um, and so it's just very interesting. And now, on the other end of it, I see doctors in my practice, and I have seen doctors in my practice over the years. And now it's interesting because now I have a little bit more leeway in terms of like what we can do. And I've had people that I've seen over the years that's very concerning that they practice. And so, now as mental health professionals, you could also make recommendations about, to licensing and things like that, or report concerns directly, as well, which you could back then too, but I didn't know as much as I do now. But yes, very scary how much people who feel very godlike feel like they're in control and everyone should worship me, the ground that I walk on, and kiss my feet. All too common.